Hi there, my name is Victor and I am a master technician. Please be aware that I do not represent any company. I'm not endorsed by or affiliated with any automotive manufacturer or car dealership. All opinions expressed in this video are my own, and all trademarks, logos, and brand names are the property of their respective owners. Today I'm going to show you how to replace the transmission fluid on 2016 and up Lexus RX350 models. To do this job, you will need 4 liters or quarts of Toyota WS transmission fluid, fill plug gasket, drain plug gasket, and the overflow tube drain plug gasket, as well as some tools such as a 24mm socket and ratchet, 17mm Allen key socket, a T40 Torx bit, 10mm socket and driver, and a 21mm socket or tire iron to get the tires off. You will also need a transmission filler, a scan tool, or if you don't have a scan tool, you can get away with a paper clip or a piece of wire, and I'll show you how to do it. You will need also the torque wrench, and there are some torque specs for the drain plug, the fill plug, the overflow tube drain plug, and as well as the wheel lug nut torque, because we'll have to take one of the wheels off. And this is the ATF level adjustment temperature window, and I will talk more about that when we get there. Lift the vehicle up and have it sitting parallel to the ground, because if you, let's say, are just using jack stands and you jack up just the rear, just the front of the vehicle, the angle at which it's sitting at is not going to be parallel to the ground, so potentially your fluid level in the assembly that you're replacing the fluid in will not be level, and you will not set it to the correct level. So if you're using jack stands, lift up all 4 corners of the car, and don't do this service on a severely slanted driveway either for the same reason. First thing we're going to do is remove the wheel, the front wheel on the driver's side. Next, we're going to use our 10mm socket and driver and remove these 2 bolts on the side cover. There's also a clip on the inside, but this one is missing one. With the side cover removed, you can see where the fill plug is located on this transaxle or transmission. It's right there behind the side cover on the driver's side. Use a 24mm socket with a extension and a ratchet to loosen this fill plug. Always loosen and remove the fill plug first. You don't want to drain the transaxle and then have no way of filling it. So there's the fill plug removed out of it. Next thing we're going to do is drain the transaxle. So the drain and the overflow tube are all built into one assembly on it. It's right here on the driver's side of the vehicle at the bottom of the transaxle. Use your T40 Torx socket and a ratchet to loosen and remove the overflow tube from the drain plug. Or sorry, the overflow tube plug itself. So let the fluid drain out for a bit until it stops draining, so you don't make a giant mess. Once the fluid stops draining out of the overflow pipe, you can use your 17mm Allen key and crack the drain plug loose and drain the rest of the fluid out of there. Okay, now you can take your drain plug with a built-in overflow tube assembly and remove the old O-ring off of it. So there's the old O-ring. Install the new O-ring roll it all the way down like this. It's supposed to be located right there, and lube it up with a little bit of the transmission fluid that's coming out. And now once all the fluid has drained, you can reinstall this drain plug overflow tube assembly. Tighten the drain plug with overflow tube assembly to 36 foot-pounds if you're using a torque wrench, or nice and snug if you don't have one. Reinstall the little drain plug for the overflow tube that we removed originally. Don't replace the O-ring on it just yet, because we're going to remove it to check the fluid level. So just install it with the old O-ring for now, and don't have to tighten it too much, just enough that the fluid doesn't leak out while we're filling it up. You will need some sort of a transmission filling apparatus. I mean, you can jimmy rig something to fill it up from a funnel from the top, but I use this type of a pressurized container setup. So you want to fill it with approximately 3.5 liters or 3.5 quarts of Toyota WS automatic transmission fluid. So insert the fill hose into the fill plug that we removed earlier, and fill the transaxle up with approximately 3.5 liters of WS fluid. Now that the transaxle is filled, you can go ahead and install the fill plug with a new fill plug gasket and tighten it to 36 foot-pounds, or tight if you don't have a torque wrench. Reinstall the side cover with a 210mm bolts. Install the wheel. Snug up the lug nuts. And torque them to 76 foot-pounds. Alright, so now we're going to get to the fun part of actually adjusting the transmission fluid to the proper level. So Lexus uses what's called an overflow type transmission fluid level setting system. And when you're setting the fluid level, you need to be at a precise temperature range. Here in Canada we measure in Celsius, so it's 35 to 45 Celsius. For the American folks, it's 95 to 113 Fahrenheit. It's important to be in that range because as the fluid gets hotter, it expands, and then if we're trying to set a level, if it's too hot, too much of the fluid is going to overflow, and then your fluid level is going to be low in the end. If you try to set it below the optimum temperature, not enough is going to overflow, and then you're going to have too much fluid in there. If you have access to a scan tool that can read the transmission fluid temperature, that makes the life a lot easier. You just go under the transmission ECU and look up AT oil temperature, and there it is, 33.7 Celsius. Now if you don't have a scan tool, I'm going to show you a method of doing it without. You just need a paper clip or a piece of wire. If you do not have a scan tool, there is a way of doing this with a car actually indicating what the temperature of the transmission fluid is. You're going to need to connect the terminals 4 and 13 of the diagnostic link connector using your paper clip. Obviously don't get a rubber coated one, you need a metal paper clip or a piece of wire with two ends of insulation stripped off. So we're going to connect terminals 4 and 13 with the ignition off. I'm going to use a little piece of jumper wire like this. So the DLC3 connector is located right here. I'm going to show you where it is. It's this white connector right there, and there are the terminals 4 and 13 connected together with a jumper wire with ignition off. Okay, so with our jumper wire connected, we're gonna go ahead and start the engine. You're gonna see a whole bunch of warning lights flashing in the dash. That's totally normal. There's nothing wrong with the car. And now we're gonna put the car into temperature detection mode. To put it in transmission fluid temperature detection mode, we're gonna shift it into drive with our foot on the brake, and then we're gonna cycle the shifter between drive and neutral a number of times fairly rapidly. And what we're gonna watch for is the D indicator in the middle. We're gonna want it to come on for 2 seconds and then go out. After we do that, it will either stay off, that means the transmission fluid's too cold. It can come on and stay on solid, that means it's in a perfect temperature range for doing the fluid adjustment. Or if the D indicator flashes, that means that the transmission is too hot and it needs to cool down before we can do the fluid level adjustment. All right, so let's move the shifter from neutral to drive and watch the indicator in the cluster and see what happens. Okay, so you can see that right now D indicator is flashing, so that means that the transmission fluid is way too hot, so we're gonna need to let the vehicle cool off for a bit until it's in a proper detection range. All right, so some time has passed and I let the transmission cool off. So we're gonna do the same procedure again, and we're gonna look at the D indicator, and hopefully this time it's not flashing after we move the shifter back and forth and stays on. So we're watching the D indicator and we want it to stay on. So in our case it is on right now, and that's telling us that the fluid temperature is at a perfect range for adjustment. Once we've enabled the temperature adjustment mode, we're gonna leave the vehicle in park and then remove the little jump wire that we installed earlier. Now all the lights stop flashing and the D indicator is on, indicating that the temperature is in a perfect range for adjustment. For now, we're gonna leave it in park, engine running, and we're gonna proceed to the adjustment of the overflow fluid level. All right, so with the engine running, transmission in park, at the proper fluid temperature, we're going to open this little bolt with our T40 socket, and that's going to allow the excess fluid to overflow out of the transmission. So you can see the fluid is coming out. In the meanwhile, replace the little O-ring on this plug while the fluid is draining. Okay, so I have the new little plug gasket on there, lubricated with some transmission fluid. So what we're waiting for is for this flow here to turn into a trickle or a drip. We overfilled it knowingly because we didn't want to underfill it. So let's wait until it slows down to a trickle, and then we're gonna reinstall this plug back in. All right, there we go. So it's become a bit of a trickle now. It's not pouring right out of that drain anymore. We'll give it another minute or a few seconds. Okay, so now that's definitely a trickle. Now we can tighten this plug to 7 foot-pounds or snug if you don't have a torque wrench. And clean off the oil residue. Brake clean or just wipe it with a rag. All right, there we go. Once we lower the vehicle, just reconfirm that the D indicator is still on while the transmission's in park. That's telling us that the fluid was not has not exceeded the upper temperature threshold level while we were setting the overflow level. So that's telling us we're good. Now you can shut it off, and then when we restart it, it goes back into normal mode. So now the shift indicator is in park. And that is it. Transmission fluid replacement complete. Thanks for watching. Please check for product links below the video for any tools or supplies needed to complete the procedure shown in this tutorial. If you would like me to make a specific video, please leave a suggestion in comments. And don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Cheers!